This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Many states and several nations are rolling out so-called contact tracing for COVID-19. It uses an app on your cell phone to try to stop the spread of coronavirus. But will it violate your rights? Dale Hurd has the story.
Health experts have long used contact tracing to stop epidemics like Ebola, and they're trying to use it to stop COVID-19. But getting already suspicious Americans to cooperate so that it works effectively will be tough. The CDC even gives contact tracing the creepy term of public health surveillance. Using either Bluetooth or location services on your phone, contact tracing apps record who we've been in contact with in case people nearby have COVID-19. Nations like Singapore are already using it.
Get peace of mind for you and your family through community-driven contact tracing.
Now, House Bill 6666. The COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone or TRACE Act would give $100 billion to local organizations to help with testing and contact tracing by funding door-to-door outreach. Contrary to what some believe, it does not allow anyone to enter your home or allow the government to remove anyone from your home because of coronavirus. But could the government legally force us to take an app on our phones? Professor Brad Jacobs, a constitutional expert at Regent University, says no.
We do have protections against searches and seizures by the government. The Supreme Court just a couple years ago ruled that the government can't use pings off of cell towers to tell them where someone is without getting a warrant first.
But could the government restrict your freedom if you don't use a contact tracing app? Maybe.
Supreme Court has long held that no rights are absolute. The government can override a constitutional right, at least for a short period, if it can show what we call a compelling state interest.
Michael Doherty, the CEO of LabMD, a medical testing lab who's been fighting federal overreach in his industry for years, is the author of The Devil Inside the Beltway, and he calls a tracing app Big Brother.
It's a huge excuse to give the government more information. And as we're seeing with who infiltrates our government, they will violate our rights and violate anyone's rights for political gain.
The notion that Americans will cooperate voluntarily with a contact tracing app seems to be dead on arrival. A recent poll showed less than a third of Americans would participate in tracing if it's run by the federal government. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. Well, what's happening to all that money that's supposed to help small businesses? That's just one of several tough questions the nation's top two financial officers faced yesterday on Capitol Hill. Caitlin Burke reports.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell presented different pictures of the economic outlook. Mnuchin warning that unless states reopen, the economy could face permanent damage, while Powell suggested that more congressional action is needed.
We are continuing to see large unemployment and other negative indicators. It is important to realize that the large number represents real people.
This is the biggest response by Congress ever and the fastest and the biggest from us. And still, this is the biggest shock we've seen in living memory. And the question looms in the air of, is it enough?
Some lawmakers questioned if it's time to begin sending people back to work before a vaccine is in place.
How many workers should give their lives to increase our GDP by 0.5%?
You know, workers should give their lives to do that, Mr. Senator, and I think your characterization is unfair.
Others are raising questions about whether bailout money is actually making it to the small businesses who need it most. A congressional oversight group revealed this week that the Treasury Department has only allocated $37.5 billion of the $500 billion relief fund. CBN News spoke with small business owners who described the difficulties of accessing the money the government's already allocated for them.
By the time I got the funds that actually hit last week, you're given 8 weeks to disperse and allocate them for it to be forgivable. But because my gym is not able to open yet, I had to return the funds because I wouldn't be able to do all the standards they requested.
I knew the day that it was going to be available, I had all of my stuff ready. I had all my ducks in a row. This is major. This is really important to us. So it's all electronic. I'm prepared the morning of. I go on, I put my stuff in, and I get an automated response back that says, I'm sorry, you don't qualify. That was a massive, massive problem. I know we qualify. I've read the law.
Scott Gilbert says in the end, he only received 60% of what he should have been eligible for, leaving many expenses still unpaid.
Democrats hope Tuesday's hearings would pressure Republicans into another relief bill, but Congress is deadlocked. GOP leaders say lawmakers should evaluate what's working and what's not before spending more money. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Thanks, Caitlin. Well, the government providing financial aid for small businesses, and the Small Business Administration is contacting 37 Planned Parenthood affiliates who applied for and got $80 million in loans from the Paycheck Protection Program. That's according to Fox News, which also says the federal government now wants that money back. The SBA says the affiliates should have known they were not eligible for the relief money. Joining us now is Abby Johnson, who once ran a large Planned Parenthood clinic in Texas and is now a pro-life advocate. Abby, thanks for being with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Abby, what do you make of all this? Do you think the clinics knew they weren't eligible? Will they have to give the money back?
They absolutely should have to give the money back. I think that they had to know. This is just Planned Parenthood has a long history of taking money when they shouldn't. They have a long history of defrauding the government. This is just another strike in Planned Parenthood's long list of shady practices, particularly shady practices that they have employed during this pandemic.
Abby, from what you've seen, is Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry struggling since the pandemic started?
I mean, not that we have really seen. I think that they are giving the appearance that they are, but we don't have any reason to believe that they are struggling in the least. I mean, look at what's taking place. They've got a big regional affiliate raised over $700,000 at a virtual luncheon just a few weeks ago. The Price is Right had a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood, raised almost $100,000. They don't even need taxpayer funding at this point because they are so well funded by private donors.
That's amazing. Well, during this pandemic, what efforts are still being made toward the fight for life?
You know, pregnancy centers have been on the front lines, continuing to stay open when possible. They are providing as much care as they can, doors open. There have been people still on the front lines in front of abortion facilities. You know, many of these sidewalk advocates are saying, hey, if abortion is deemed essential, then we are also essential. We are going to continue to stand out here and save lives. So the pro-life movement is still fighting. We are still active. We are still doing everything we can to save lives on the front line.
Abby, in the last 24 hours, there's been a lot of discussion about Norma McCovey, the Roe versus Wade, saying she had a confession prior to her death that her conversion to Christianity was just an act. Have you heard about this? What can you tell us?
You know, Norma, I didn't know Norma. I wish I would have known her. I only spoke to her one time before her death, and it was literally days before her death. And Norma was a very fragile person, a very vulnerable person throughout her life. She carried a tremendous burden, a self-imposed burden, 60 million babies that she felt like she was responsible for. And one thing I know to be true is that her 22 years in the pro-life movement of dedicating herself to overturning a law that bore her name was very sincere, and it was very real. And what I do know is that the abortion industry manipulated her when she was young into being Jane Roe of Roe v. Wade, and I believe that they manipulated her in the very last year of her life. And what I saw in the final days of her life when I spoke to her on the phone was a woman who was contrite. She was repentant. She was tormented by what she had allowed the abortion industry to coerce her into doing. And I believe that she absolutely died a woman who was pro-life. And I know that the abortion industry lies. And I do not believe for 1 second that Norma McCorvey was anything but a pro-life person at the moment of her death.
Abby Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, President Trump is still working to reach voters while following social distancing. We'll hear about a special conference call he held with one group of leaders across the country. But before we go to the break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Today, President Trump hosted a conference call for Hispanic pastors and leaders across the country. Latinos are expected to be the largest non-white voting bloc in this year's election, and traditionally they vote Democratic. Pastor Tony Suarez is one of the president's faith advisors and was on that call today. He joins us now. Pastor Tony, thanks for being with us.
Wendy, thank you for having me on the program.
Well, tell us about the call. How did it go and who joined in?
Well, there was I don't know the exact number, but several hundred faith leaders, community leaders, small business owners from around the United States. And as the president was talking to us, I really reflected back to a meeting we had in Trump Tower 4 years ago with a small group of faith leaders. The president, Reverend Sam Rodriguez, the president of the NHCLC, was there. And at that time, the hot button topic amongst Latino was the wall. And president was talking to us about how he was going to build walls and that. And I remember Reverend Rodriguez saying, Mr. President, you have to secure the border, build the walls. I agree. But you have to also build bridges to our community. And that's what we've seen the president do for the last several years. He continues to build bridges, whether it's Jenny Korn's leadership in the liaison's office or appointing Jovita Carranza as the director of the SBA department. And just again today, this call, building bridges, reminding the Hispanic community that under this administration, Hispanic employment was at a record high prior to COVID. Hispanic home ownership, the median income is at the highest it's been in our history, and a commitment, a pledge to our community that as we come back out of this and the country reopens, that we're going to get back to where we were, and not just get back, but it's going to be better than it ever was before. So it's refreshing to hear. We see light at the end of the tunnel.
Pastor Tony, what kind of questions did the leaders have for him, and did you have a question for him?
You know, I didn't ask a question on this particular call. What stood out to me on the call is that there was not one question that came up that I heard about questions about testing or COVID or the economy. There was praise. There was thanks. We heard from small businesses that were able to take part in the PPP program, and from a church that was able to be that had hosted the president in the past, and their pledge to say, Mr. President, come back to Miami. The questions that came about really centered around what, you know, as we reopen, what are we going to do about Venezuela? And again, it was more just thanking President Trump for his commitment to supporting the Cuban American people in Florida. So it was pretty interesting to me, the confidence that I saw that came from our community towards the president, trusting that he's doing an incredible job with his administration to reopen the country.
Well, as you know, Hispanics are known for not turning out to vote, and it may be especially difficult this year with the pandemic. What is your sense of how politically engaged Hispanics are right now in going through the election?
I don't think Hispanic evangelicals in specific have another option than this administration. I expect that they will vote. I expect that they feel the responsibility right now, especially with all the church closures that took place, and understanding that federal guidelines had to be put in place. We had to do what was right. Even the president brought it up today, that we saved millions of lives from death and from just obtaining the virus by what we did. But now we have churches that are struggling to reopen. There's counties in California prohibiting churches from being able to sing. Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, I'm in Chicago right now at a church that's reopening this weekend, and just see, you know, as cars being ticketed and pastors receiving violations for reopening churches, seeing what seems to be a perceived attack on the church at this point, I believe is going to draw a lot of the Hispanic evangelicals to feel that responsibility to get to the polls and vote come November.
Pastor Tony Suarez, faith advisor to President Trump, thanks so much for being with us and sharing what was on the call today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for more political news and analysis, be sure to catch Faith Nation this evening. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, our conversation with a famous alumnus of American Idol, Colton Dixon. And we'll hear some of his new music as well, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I got
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
American Idol crowned its newest season winner Sunday, and Lauren Daigle performed a duet with the woman who's known as Just Sam. It's also a busy season for American Idol alum Colton Dixon. He's a husband, soon to be father of two. His wife is pregnant with identical twins. Dixon has also given birth to a new self-titled music project. Here's a quick sample of his latest sound, and we'll talk to him on the other side.
That was the single Miracles, and Colton Dixon joins us now to talk more. First off, Colton, good to see you. I have to ask, how are you coping in quarantine?
Sure. Man, we're good. It's just my wife and I at home. My wife is 6 months pregnant, so it's actually been a really sweet season for us just to be around each other without kids. So we're soaking in as much time as we can. But we're good. We're just trying to make the most of it, I'm sure, like everyone else.
A lot going on for you right now, a new project. It's described as a real new sound. How would you describe Colton Dixon, the music project we're hearing now?
Yeah, just kind of a new chapter for us in all aspects, sonically, even what we wrote about. Coming from Christian music, I'm now signed to a mainstream record label. So at first it was a little bit of unknown just to figure out the liberties that I had, but they've actually been amazing. Basically writing very similar things, it's just packaged different. But it came out of a season unknown for me. Lost my record label 3 years ago because my American Idol deal ended. So it felt like a musician without a job, basically. But during that season, God taught me a lot. My wife helped me a lot as well. She said, man, what if this isn't a setback? What if this is God's way of setting you up for what's next? And we started to apply our faith to that. But out of that season of unknown came all of these songs. So I think the timing has just been perfect to be in this current season where we're all in this big barrel of unknown of what the future holds. So I'm so glad that we put it out when we did. But I want to bring people hope, and I want to leave people better than they were when they started listening to the songs. So however that looks for them, even if, again, they don't believe the same way that you and I do, I just want to leave them with some hope that, hey, you know what, it's going to get better.
We shared the tune Miracles at the start of this segment, and it seems so timely. Tell me the story behind that song. I understand you helped to co-write a lot of what's on the project.
Sure. It came out of that same season. And during that season, my wife and I were forced to slow down a bit. And in doing so, we started to notice all of the little things that happened around us every single day that maybe we took for granted or we overlooked because we were busy. But we were like, man, we have so many blessings every single day, so many miracles that happen every single day. So it just allowed us to be more grateful and to approach God with more of like a humble heart. I think God loves to work with humble hearts. And it was just a really sweet season for us just to grow spiritually and know that God is always up to something, even when we're not. So just paying attention to those things helped us a lot. We think miracles is these huge life-altering events, but I think, again, there are miracles that happen around us every single day if we'll take the time to stop and look.
Now, in addition to new music, you and your wife are expecting twins. What are your thoughts as you prepare to give birth to, I believe, identical twins?
That's correct. Yeah, we're expecting twin girls. Crazy. Still wrapping our heads around it. We got the 2-for-1 coupon somewhere along the way. But we're so excited. We've been able to take this time to work on the nursery and get the house ready. And man, I've had some really great father figures in my life, including my own dad. And just trying to gather as much as I can from those experiences, but at the same time, knowing that the perfect example is our Heavenly Father. So even when I don't have the answers or I don't know what to do, just relying on Holy Spirit to get me through that and to lead me and to make the best decisions. Not only, it's not just about me anymore, or not just about me and my wife anymore, but it's a family of 4. So just leading them with integrity and providing for them. And it's just it's crazy. It can feel overwhelming at times, but I know it's going to be good, and I know God's going to help me.
Colton Dixon, thank you so much for your time. Again, the project is called Colton Dixon, and we can listen to Miracles and the entire project right now.
Congratulations to those guys. Wow, they're going to have a handful. Well, you can catch the all-new episode of Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel tonight at 9:30 Eastern. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
A Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Mississippi Pastor Todd Tillman won NBC's Season 18 of The Voice. In the finale, where each singer performed from home, Tillman wowed the judges with Christian band's Mercy Me's hit, I Can Only Imagine. Take a look. God bless him. Wow, he's good. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. Have a great day, and God bless you.